Tonight, from crime,
there is no longer respect for the law, and there certainly is no order,
to a conservative agenda.
We can't afford to take our eyes off the road in front of us, because what's at stake is the very survival of our way of life.
The former president and vice president lay out different visions for America's future. Plus, the battle over abortion taking shape in the states as Kansas prepares to become the first in the nation to vote on the issue since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. And
they had people inside TikTok saying everything is seen in China.
The national security threat behind the nation's most popular social media app. All this and more on tonight's Faith Nation.
From the West Wing partners to separate visions for what lies ahead for the Republican Party. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Tara Mergener.
In our CBN News Bureau in Washington, I'm John Jessup. Well, the former running mates now look more like rivals, creating a rift among Republicans.
It's true. While the race to challenge President Biden for the White House is more than 2 years away, we are getting a sense of what the GOP field might look like, with both Donald Trump and Mike Pence signaling they're in. CBN's Matt Galka joins us now. Matt, for anyone expecting a 2024 Trump-Pence do-over, that's probably not going to happen based on what we saw yesterday.
No, it would take a pretty significant reconciliation between them, because right now we had the top two members of a former administration returning to D.C., no longer a team, and speaking at different events. At one time, a high-profile separation like this may have been unheard of, although this is clearly a different time.
I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican, in that order.
Mike Pence chose to stake his position in front of younger conservatives at the Young America's Foundation conference. The former vice president touted multiple Trump-Pence administration accomplishments, like low unemployment, American trade, and border security. But he also made a point of differentiation with his former boss by frequently mentioning the future and road ahead for his party rather than dwelling on the past. Pence barely touched on January 6th and a highly publicized split with Donald Trump, although a student brought the subject front and center with a pointed question after the speech.
So I don't know that our movement is that divided. I don't know that the president and I differ on issues. But we may differ on focus. I truly do believe that elections are about the future.
Later in the day, and less than a mile away, the former president took his turn at the America First Policy Institute Summit. Trump talked about a bleak America under the dark cloud of growing violence nationwide.
Our country is in a condition on crime that we've never seen before.
Then he went into familiar claims about the 2020 election, while hinting at another run for the White House.
If I renounced my beliefs, if I agreed to stay silent, if I stayed at home and just took it easy, the persecution of Donald Trump would stop immediately. It would stop. But that's not what I will do. I can't do that. A much simpler life. Have to save our country.
The clear divide between Trump and Pence and who should vie for the White House in 2024 is the so-called elephant in the room. But many Republicans are not yet ready to commit to a candidate.
I think it'd be good to have a wide variety of different voices and really lay out what their plans are for the future. It's not enough to just say, this is what we've done in the past.
There's always jockeying for leadership, for thought leadership. And that's what we're so encouraged by, is to see these office holders, some former office holders, stepping forward with a positive agenda to address the economic problems that we have and the cultural problems.
While the deciding factor could end up being one of the future versus the past, analysts believe it's still Trump's party.
For voters who Trump is their guy and they like him, Pence is essentially a traitor because of January 6th and what he did or did not do on that day. I think it's difficult for Pence to get there.
One point both Trump and Pence seemingly agree on is Republicans taking control of Congress in November midterms, although they have endorsed rival candidates in certain races. Guys.
All right, for more on this, let's bring in CBN News Chief Political Analyst David Brody. David, you might say Donald Trump and Mike Pence's dueling speeches highlighted competing visions for the future of the Republican Party. So which will win, and does it potentially hurt the party's chances in November?
Well, it's a good question, Tara. Let's just get right to it. No, I don't think it hurts the party's chances in November. I think that train has left the station and Democrats see the iceberg right ahead. I think it's going to be a walloping success for the Republicans in the midterms. 2024, a different story. I mean, look, the truth of the matter is Donald Trump has the oxygen right now. He's always had the oxygen. It is a populist party. And the factions that we're seeing develop here is a establishment faction versus a populist faction. And that's the bottom line on all of this. You know, Mike Pence and Donald Trump were always kind of an odd couple to begin with. You know, Mike Pence, a strong guy, traditional conservative. And I don't want to call him GOP establishment in the sense that, you know, that kind of brings up kind of a Mitt Romney or a Rhino or a Mitch McConnell. He wasn't that. But he's a solid conservative in that lane. But Donald Trump has taken it to the populist level for a long time now. And I think we're finally starting to see that rift. And also, as Matt mentioned in the piece, the rift of how much do you concentrate on the future and how much do you concentrate on the past? Typically, to win an election, you got to concentrate on the future. That's what Mike Pence and some of the GOP establishment crowd are hoping, and that Donald Trump continuing to harp on the past will not bode well for the Republicans in 2024.
So, David, you got establishment versus populist, but we also have Republicans versus Democrats. Polls are showing essentially a dead heat, showing Donald Trump, at least in one of those polls, ahead in a 2024 rematch with Biden by about 2 points. Biden's poll numbers are in a free fall. David, what do you think things will look like for Democrats after the November elections?
I don't think it's going to change much. And here's why. You know, with all due respect, I'm not trying to be cute here, but Biden's not getting any older, if we all know what I'm saying. So that's not a good sign. Kamala Harris is despised, not by Republicans. Yeah, we know that. Democrats don't like her. So that's a problem. And who else is going to come riding into on a white horse, if you will, or on this the shining star of the Democrat Party for 2024? Who is it? Gavin Newsom? That's what we're hearing. He was almost recalled in California. So if you go down the list, Democrats have problems as it relates to running against whoever it is, whether it be Trump or Pence. Won't be Pence, by the way, just so you know. But, you know, whoever it is, that's going to be very, very interesting. And let's remember, whatever happens, the Democrat candidate can give an in-kind donation, especially Joe Biden, to the Trump campaign, because Joe Biden it's just been one problem after another for Biden. And he makes Jimmy Carter look good.
A lot to speculate. David, thank you so much.
Thanks, David.
You bet.
Well, turning to economic news tonight, the Federal Reserve is once again taking action to cut down on rising inflation, announcing again today another set of interest rate hikes. Abigail Robertson has been following the announcement and joins us now for more. Abigail, how high has the Federal Reserve decided to go this time?
Well, John, today Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell announced they will be raising interest rates by 3/4 of a point. This is the second unusually high rate hike of the year, and their hope is that by doing this, it will help bring inflation down to their goal of 2%. Now, during today's announcement, Powell also fielded many questions on whether or not we are heading towards or perhaps already in a recession. Take a look at his response.
All of the wage measures that we track are running very strong. So this is a very strong labor market, and it's just not consistent with 2.7 million people hired in the first half of the year. It doesn't make sense that the economy would be in recession with this kind of thing happening. So I don't think the U.S. economy is in recession right now.
Powell also said this might not be the last unusually high rate hike of the year, hinting another one likely is coming a few months from now.
We'll be watching. Abigail, how will this rate hike affect most Americans?
Well, basically, this rate hike means it's more expensive to borrow money. So rates on big purchases like cars and homes are going to go up. Credit card rates are going to go up. And just taking out a loan in general is going to be more expensive. And according to Chief Investment Strategist Steve Skanke, if you are a saver, though, you might see an upside to this.
For the average American, if it has an impact on bringing down the rate of inflation, that'll be positive, because right now Americans are spending a lot more of their disposable income on energy, food, rent. For people who are living on fixed income, higher interest rates will allow better returns on savings going forward in the future.
And as we see this increase in the cost of borrowing for the average consumer, that's going to lead to people paying these higher rates, having less disposable income to spend on other things. John, Tara.
Abby, thank you so much. Well, abortion on the ballot. Kansas is about to be the first state to vote on banning the procedure since the fall of Roe v. Wade. Details next. To the abortion battle in America now, Kansas is set to become the first state where voters will weigh in on abortion since June's Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade. Next Tuesday, residents will get to vote on a ballot measure asking if the Kansas Constitution should be amended to say the document doesn't contain the right to have an abortion. If approved, the move would overturn a 2019 decision by the state Supreme Court enshrining abortion rights into Kansas's governing document. Well, let's discuss. We're joined now by Penny Nance, President and CEO of Concerned Women for America. Penny, welcome. What is at stake with this Kansas vote on Tuesday?
This is such an important issue, Tara. I'm so glad that CBN is covering it. You know, this is one of the first times you have a state ruling on this issue post the overturn of Roe v. Wade. As you said, in 2019, the Kansas State Supreme Court said that abortion was a fundamental right. And that is, of course, in direct conflict with what the Supreme Court has said. But now we have to have voters are going to be coming to the polls on August 2nd to vote with on the Value Them Both amendment. And so we at Concerned Women for America's members will be voting. People that are advocating on that issue say that the pro-life position on that, of course, is yes, because, of course, you value them both. But it's really up to the voters whether they're going to turn out. Kansas is mostly a red state and mostly a conservative pro-life state. But let's recognize there's been a lot of energy after Roe v. Wade was overturned on the left and the pro-abortion side. So it really comes down to whether people will actually come to vote, whether they will contact their pro-life neighbors and their Sunday school members and people in the church and remind them on August 2nd that they simply need to make sure that they vote and remind them what the pro-life position is.
Penny, a Kentucky judge just blocked 2 abortion bans in the state, saying the laws are adopted from religious traditions. Is ending abortion only an issue for religious people, in your opinion?
Of course not. This is a matter of science, and that's really what happened to the abortion industry. Science caught up with the lie of abortion. You have an entire generation now who own their own sonograms, starting with my own children, who actually own their own sonograms and can see that at 5 weeks there's a beating heart and recognizes that by 10 weeks the little baby has arms and legs and fingers and toes, and recognizes that at 15 weeks, whereas, you know, the Mississippi case actually landed on in the Mississippi law that a baby can feel pain. The American people are not in line with the far left, the extreme position that abortion should be legal anytime, any reason. So the states are fighting it out, and we knew that they would, and we welcome this battle because we know the American people are not in line with the far left. And so we can advocate for our side now instead of having 7 out of 9 justices, men on the Supreme Court in 1973, decide for all of us.
And Penny, on Tuesday, a group of House Democrats introduced a bill that would enact term limits for Supreme Court justices. An AP poll out this week found 67% of Americans favor these limits. Do you think that's something that should be done? Very quickly.
Absolutely not, and it's unconstitutional. If the left wants to change the Supreme Court and limit their terms, then they're going to actually have to pass a constitutional amendment to do it.
All right, Penny Nance, thank you so much.
Thanks, Penny. Does the most popular social media app serve as Beijing's backdoor to the personal data of millions of users? The threat TikTok poses to U.S. security when Faith Nation returns. And welcome back. An about-face over political ads over the streaming service Hulu. Axios reports parent company Disney has reversed a previous decision not to allow political groups and candidates to air commercials on the platform. It comes after Hulu rejected pro-abortion and anti-gun ads from Democratic groups, sparking backlash over censorship. Disney says Hulu's ad guidelines will now mirror those used for Disney's cable network, but it also says it still won't accept political ads or advertisements for alcohol on Disney Plus in an effort to keep the service family-friendly.
Well, TikTok is the most popular social media app on the market, but some also call it a threat to our national security, John.
That's right, Tara. Lawmakers and security experts are sounding the alarm, accusing China of using the app to gather data on millions of Americans. National security correspondent Caitlin Burke has a story.
TikTok is the most downloaded app in the world. Known for short viral videos, it has tens of millions of users in the U.S.
Oh, I'm so over these gas prices.
In order to operate successfully, TikTok collects a lot of data. It tracks account information, search history, any content created through the platform, along with users' locations and behavioral information. Companies like Facebook and Google collect similar data, but there's one major difference. TikTok is based in China.
China has a national security law that compels every entity within its jurisdiction to aid its espionage and what they view as their national security efforts.
This means Chinese companies are required to make all data they collect available to the Chinese Communist Party. No exceptions. Brendan Carr, a commissioner at the Federal Communications Commission, says that includes all the personal information TikTok's been gathering on millions of Americans.
At the FCC, we've also taken a look at other entities beholden to the CCP, whether it's Huawei, ZTE, China Mobile, and we see just a history of nefarious conduct from business industrial espionage to blackmail. There's a lot of reasons to be concerned, not about the videos, but the underlying data going back en masse to China.
An investigation into the national security implications of TikTok was first launched by the Treasury Department back in 2019. Then, in 2020, President Donald Trump threatened to ban the entertainment platform if it didn't sell itself to a U.S. company.
Bye-bye.
Through it all, TikTok maintained it had never shared data with the Chinese government and insisted the information of American users was secure, being handled only by U.S.-based teams. Then in June, BuzzFeed got access to a collection of leaked tapes from internal meetings at TikTok, and they told a completely different story.
They had people inside TikTok saying everything is seen in China. They had a master admin person who, again, was disclosing that there was almost no checks on what could go back there.
TikTok went on damage control and recently assured concerned Republican lawmakers that new steps are being taken to further secure American data, including the transition to a U.S.-based cloud services provider that they say will soon be used to operate the app, as well as store American users' personal information. While it sounds like a step in the right direction, TikTok CEO also admitted some China-based engineers will still require access to the app, which by law grants that same access to Beijing.
With that data, China is able to feed it into its artificial intelligence systems, is also perhaps able to compromise American.
A key part of the work that will still need to be done in China involves TikTok's algorithm. China expert and author Gordon Chang says that's the biggest security concern of all.
Through the control of the algorithm, China is able to influence American public opinion. We know that in 2020, the Chinese military used TikTok to incite violence on American streets. TikTok glorifies drug usage in America, and there are other things that they've been doing to interfere in our political process.
In a rare show of bipartisan cooperation, lawmakers are now saying enough is enough.
To have this kind of information, in a sense, be vacuumed out of TikTok into the Communist Party, China, and what they have been doing with a lot of technology and data acquisition scares the dickens out of me. It's time that we put a halt to this right now.
The Senate Intelligence Committee recently sent a letter to the Federal Trade Commission requesting an investigation be launched into TikTok. Chairman of the committee, Senator Mark Warner, says he believes the evidence against the company is overwhelming.
That's why Senator Rubio and I have said, all right, Federal Trade Commission, this completely falls into the area of a deceptive practice. That's what we have a law to prevent, and you need to do the investigation.
Meanwhile, the heads of the FBI and the United Kingdom's MI5 recently issued a very clear warning about the threat posed by China.
The most game-changing challenge we face comes from the Chinese Communist Party. It's covertly applying pressure across the globe. This might feel abstract, but it's real and it's pressing. We need to talk about it. We need to act.
Senator Warner says one step lawmakers can take immediately involves passing data privacy legislation. He points out this may be the last bipartisan issue that can be addressed ahead of midterms. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
Still ahead, remembering the forgotten war, a tribute to veterans and their families next.
Young people, millennials, are flocking to church.
It's not an exaggeration to say that we love to meet them and that we love to know their stories.
Finally tonight, remembering a war often overlooked. A new addition to a memorial here in Washington, D.C. is hoping to help people do just that.
That's right. It's a project 13 years in the making. The Korean War Veterans Memorial unveiled a tribute today to more than 43,000 service members killed in duty, their names filling up a new wall of remembrance. The granite panels create a place for veterans and families to find the names of the fallen and remember the sacrifices they made. It's an addition to the original memorial, which includes 19 stainless steel statues of servicemen draped in ponchos and carrying weapons through the marsh. And they were able to raise the money, from what I understand, Tara, between both Koreans and Americans to honor the war dead.
We are grateful for their service.
Absolutely. Well, that wraps it up for tonight's Faith Nation.